Thank you for watching a new episode of Tech Talk, where we take a deep dive into technology and have a walkthrough and talk about different topics. Today, we'll talk about harmonic frequencies.
Sounds good.
Sounds good?
Yes.
What are harmonic frequencies, Roland?
Well, it's if we focus on the music instrument side first and not audio devices, harmonic frequencies or harmonic parts. Every instrument has a main tone, a main frequency, but what makes the character or differs a piano from a violin, which can both play the same frequency, it's of course the overtone and harmonic side effects, overtones, harmonic frequencies that give the sound or the instrument its real actual character. It's a little bit weird that it's called harmonic because it's only harmonic because it's nice to our human ears and makes some sense if you kind of measure it. If you ever have these visitors from space one day, and we play, a violin, they might say, if they can talk, so what's that noise? That sounds terrible. And we might say, oh, that's a violin. Do you hear these nice harmonics? But that's only harmonic and using that name for us because that's how all these instruments developed. And that's because of these harmonics.
Mm-hmm. You talked a lot about overtones. Can you explain that in a rather simple way? What are harmonic overtones?
It is that you have, if you would measure it, you would have this main frequency that the instrument is playing, but you see some other, like side bands, like other frequencies that are also engaged. It's like a resonance, but in a good way.
Yeah.
So if you would have a pure tone, it would be pretty boring. And if you have an instrument which is rich of overtones, or you can even be a voice rich of overtones, or even an artificial sound effect, then you have more character to it, and there are more frequency engaged in a certain pattern that actually sounds good, whatever this means, to us. So it's a kind of nice resonance, but in a good way, not resonance in a loudspeaker way, where these are things that you don't want. But you could say it's resonance that sound good.
Can you compare that with like listening to a single voice or the same voice being doubled or tripled in another tone to reinforce reinforce the global effect?
Yeah, it's related to that, and if you do that wrong, it sounds really weird, and if you do it right, it sounds nice.
Yeah. How does this topic relate to audio gear?
Yeah, that's a good question and the main question, because you could think, oh, if these are overtones or resonances that I like, then why not add it in an audio product? And there are loudspeakers that are even designed that way, that have the side panels resonate in a certain way, or you have like analog components that do something to the sound and create something, or so the sound of a tube amplifier, where the tube for a fact doesn't really measure neutral, but it creates something extra. And so you think, that sounds like a good idea. But on the other side, no, it's not a good idea, because the sound character that is there should be from that violin or from Stevie Nicks' voice, in her voice, maybe with that particular microphone in that particular room, but that's where it ends. Every DA converter or amplifier or streamer or amplifier loudspeaker should reproduce her mesmerizing voice as it was recording, and otherwise, shut up. Don't add anything. Don't add any cream to that dish, right? So it's something that you think, oh, that's always good to have added frequencies, added overtone, added resonance. But I think this ends when we talk about storing music, reproducing music, and recreating, music and playing music in a room. That's where it ends. That's all coloration. It's all coloration. And of course, you could say, oh, but I like this coloration. But remember, then you put the same coloration on everything, on every instrument. So you have this extra sound coloration on a piano, on a violin, on a voice, and that's where you have to say, okay, that's moving away from the original. It's very interesting in the whole hi-fi, high-end and audiophile that in many ways people and listeners want the most pure sound, but then on the other hand, they praise certain kind of harmonic extra distortion because it makes it sound better. These are two different things.
Do we need extra gear, extra stuff to record harmonic overtones?
You need really good ones, of course. So because you can have a smartphone microphone and record an instrument, and you can have a proper microphone. It's all about capturing more information and the minute details that are there from the instrument, from the room, from the recorded room. I mean, and that's the better the microphone, the more goes in and the more is recorded, and the more fascinating the recording becomes.
Does everybody hear or perceive those harmonic overtones the same way, or do we have totally different brains and have different interpretations of that? Can that even be measured?
Not really. We all have the same cultural background when it comes to music, but you can already see a difference when you move to music in Asia or music elsewhere in the world. Then it already changes a little bit what a nice instrument and overtones are. That is different in Europe than in other parts of the world. So, but that still doesn't mean that you have to, or that you can allow to do this in the reproduction side, amplifier, loudspeaker. That's where we should not do it.
So what differences are we talking about? For instance, comparing Europe with Asia?
We talk about a different main tone of what an instrument can do, and we talk about different kind of overtones that sound either pleasing to us or not. But that has not to do with wrong or right. That has to do with what music you listen to when you grow up. So some instruments for us as Europeans, like oh, that's very high note, and also the melody it plays. I react different to that than someone from India, and they would find maybe our music and very boring because there's not much variation in it. So this whole thing about harmonics, of course, has to be seen in a wider perspective. But luckily, there's no difference when it comes to music. So a loudspeaker or an amplifier should reproduce the character of an instrument, no matter whether that instrument is native in the culture of India or in Europe or a flute from Ireland or whatever. That all has to be retained and kind of recorded well and not changed. That goes with every country.
Yeah. Is that why in different parts of the world they like different instruments or combinations of instruments to make music?
Yes, absolutely. That's the main difference, but not on the reproduction side, luckily.
Yeah, indeed.
So there, a better loudspeaker is always a better loudspeaker.
Yeah, big difference. For example, if you compare Africa with us here in Europe, it's a whole different way of producing music.
Yeah, it's producing
making music.
Yeah. But again, in the studio, start with the studio before we even enter the music rooms where we listen to music to. In the studio, the same happens. If you visit a studio in South Africa, if you visit a studio in Northern Europe, they sit there in front of two speakers and try to preserve that sound character of that instrument, of that voice, of that singer. In the best way, and do the least quality degradation in the whole chain, and then the same goes on the reproduction side of things.
Yeah. If you like our Tech Talks, please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel to see more, because we got more episodes coming. Don't we, Roland?
Yes, we have a lot more.
But thank you for now, and hopefully see you in one of our next ones.